This conference.
Well, good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning for what I believe to be the 28th COVID-19 conference call. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Wayne Mitchell with the Nacogdoches County Chamber of Commerce. I want you to know that we are recording this call and members of the media have been invited to participate as well. I'd respectfully ask if you would put your phones and your computers on mute, please. And until we're ready for the questions section. I also want to remind you folks, I haven't done this in a while, but to remind you that the Chamber has a wealth of information at the Chamber website at www.nacogdoches.org. Please visit the COVID-19 resource page for that information. There's an enormous amount of information available. I'm pleased this morning to introduce our featured presenter this morning. He had the opportunity to speak a few weeks ago at the Chamber's Eggs and Issues program, and he got rave reviews on his presentation there. And I hope you folks will welcome with me the City Manager, Mario Canizares, to our call this morning. We'll continue using the same format that we've used in our recent calls. Where I will present some questions to the city manager, and Mario will be kind enough to respond to it. Welcome, Mario. It's great to have you with us this morning. Having said that, why don't I give you an opportunity to have an opening statement, and then we'll just launch into the questions, Mario.
Well, thank you, Wayne. Appreciate for the introduction. Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well this morning. Beautiful Tuesday morning. As Wayne mentioned, I have had the opportunity to speak to a number of groups here recently over the last 2.5 months since I've started here in Nacogdoches. Started back in early August, and it's been great. People have been very welcoming here to me and here in the community, and have the opportunity to speak on kind of what I have on my mind as far as working with staff and the community and the city council and our partners, whether it's a Convention and Visitors Bureau, the Chamber, all the various associations that we're involved here with SFA, the county, school district, et cetera. So obviously it's a challenge like everyone here. We're all going in this pandemic together. It's not been easy, but the good thing is, at least within our community, we've been really resilient. We really have done very well with sales tax, and so things have persevered. People are shopping first in NAC, and that's good. And I don't want to steal any thunder from Sherry, but we're making good progress on our hotel industry with our tourism, and I know she'll report that later. But all is good so far. Really, I think as long as we can keep people healthy and keep SFA open and do good things with the recommendations from CDC and other government officials, I think we'll be able to weather the storm. So with that, Wayne, I'll turn it over to you and let you begin with questions that you may have, and I'll respond accordingly. You're on mute, Wayne. Oh. Wayne, you're on mute. So.
I'm sorry about that.
I'll go ahead and answer the questions since I didn't hear it, and so.
But I just said to it, we're really blessed to have you here, Mario, and in this challenging time. Why don't we launch with the first question? What has been the COVID-19 impact on city operations?
Well, as I mentioned just a few moments ago, it's unless you were stuck on an island or completely out of the loop, everything's been impacted by COVID, and so. But we've adapted accordingly. Early in the early days of the pandemic, when people were scared and things were moving so rapidly, there were a lot of obviously unknowns and just don't even know where to even start. So a lot of facilities were closed. We had many of our services were either put on hiatus or were completely canceled. Certainly our sports programs. Any of those quality of life programs were put on hold because of just to stop the spread. But over the last number of months, as we progressed into the summer and we just became more understanding of how the disease is spread, and really got good protocols through the CDC and other state officials, and more importantly, we're able to get access to PPE and available for the general public. We were able to slowly reopen city facilities and city functions and programs. For example, over the summer, our recreation department has allowed for more activities and events to be done in person. We're still doing a lot of virtual activities and events. Our library just reopened back on October 5th for in-person services. It is through appointment only, and so as we get more experience with that, hopefully we'll be able to provide additional services for our community. For a while, another one that's a big one, animal services are, we were closed, and we were working with a variety of groups, rescue and foster groups to help facilitate animals as they were retrieved, and so we could find good homes for them. So we've been able to weather the storm. Working with our public safety folks, obviously the biggest issue is keeping our employees safe, and those first responders, when they're out in the field dealing with whether it's medical emergencies or public safety emergencies, we've got to make sure that they have the adequate equipment to be able to provide quality services that are expected. So while it did impact us all, we've adapted. We've had to be very flexible. We really just have to be very open-minded on things. I mean, we were working remotely for some time. Our city council has been working through, it's not called Zoom, it's through Google Meets, but we've been doing virtual meetings since I believe early April. And then in fact, tonight we have at our city council meeting, we have a work session to discuss the opportunity to do, informally, we're calling it a hybrid meeting, in the sense of that we'll be able to have some council members in person and some council members away in a virtual setting. And so we'll be discussing that today, and how we're going to reconfigure the council chambers with the intent, if they give us that direction, to start that new process on November the 3rd. So we've had to adapt, but we're working through it.
Well, thank you. And it's interesting to hear you talk about that. We had our first hybrid executive committee meeting here at the chamber this morning, and it was an interesting exercise where we had half checking in remotely and half sitting in the room. So has there been a great deal of coordination and communications about COVID-19 between the cities?
Yes, absolutely. First and foremost, we work very closely with not only our cities, but certainly with Nacogdoches County. They are certainly one of our closest and most connected partner through this pandemic. We reach out to our cities, whether they're close by or far away, just to understand how they're dealing with activities. I mean, we're not in this alone, and we're all having to adjust accordingly. And so we're constantly reaching out to them, and they're reaching out to us on how to deal with things. And I'll give you an example. We're into the fall season, and then right around behind the corner will be the holiday season, and cities around the state are reaching out to us, and we're doing it with them as far as how they're going to handle some fall events. Are they going to number one, are you going to have a fall event or fall festivals, any type of special events? Are you having the number one? And if you are going to have them, how are you going to do it? The one that's coming up is Halloween. And so we were getting emails just a few weeks ago from cities around the state as how is your city going to be handling trick-or-treating? And granted, that is not something that we necessarily take on, but we were sort of waiting on CDC guidelines on what to do, and They've given us guidance on what would be considered a sort of a very low threat event to a moderate threat to a high threat event as far as just exposure. And so we're pushing that information out to our community. But absolutely, we have to reach out to our cities around the state and working with state officials on what are the best practices. And again, this is not about reinventing the wheel. This is about learning from others and improvising in many cases and adjusting as we need to. So yes, communication is key.
If there's a resurgence in COVID cases, what is the city of Nacogdoches expected to do to address the increases?
Yes, if there is a resurgence, and again, we're looking at the numbers daily. I get a report on just new active cases and things of that nature. So we're working with the numbers very closely to see how things are trending. But really, we're working, as I mentioned earlier in the previous question, Nacogdoches County is our biggest partner, and so through the most recent executive orders that Governor Abbott issued just a couple of weeks ago, places a great deal of responsibility on the county judges around the state. And so working with Judge Sal, I know Chief Kiplinger, our fire chief, has worked very closely with his team, and then Amy Mahaffey, along with our public information officer and their public information officer, working closely to make sure that the communication is unified and it's clear and concise. But if we do have to go in a situation where cases do begin to surge and we're having major hospitalizations, obviously we'd work closely with 2 area hospitals to make sure that do we have enough beds, what are we doing, how are we helping, or how are we progressing in that effort. But if we do have to, I mean, we will follow the CDC guidelines and re-encouraging people to wear their masks. To again, social distancing is obviously, as you know, is a big thing. Continued hand washing and avoiding of a crowd. So if it gets really bad, the executive orders that the governor laid out is very prescriptive in lowering the thresholds of our restaurants and retailers, along with the bars that are here in Nacogdoches. And so right now, with most retailers and restaurants, we're at 75% capacity. And if we reach those negative thresholds that we don't want to see, then that would reduce down to 50%. And it's all about stopping the spread. So we're no different than anybody else around the region or around the state. And so again, don't wish this on anyone, but it's very prescriptive on how we would address it, and we would work with SFA, work with school district, work with everyone we can to minimize and stop the spread. So,
Mario, in the time that you've been here, how would you evaluate the coordination as it relates to COVID-19 between the various community partners, many of which are on this call?
Well, I've got 2.5 months under my belt, but from what I can tell, it's gone very well. As I'd mentioned earlier, there was a lot of uncertainty and people were scared, didn't know what to do. Information ran rampant. And so, we've worked closely with the chamber, worked with NETCO, worked with school district, the county certainly, and it's about unifying the message and reaching out to, everyone has a constituency. And so, the biggest coordinated effort is just pushing of the information, and number one, reliable information, consistent information. And so it's been huge. I mean, people find their news and their information through a variety of sources. And so we have to work and be very open and work very closely with everyone, including our media partners, to make sure that the message is getting pushed. You got a lot of people that may not subscribe to newspapers or watch the news, but they follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, and so pushing out those messages through those reliable sources and available sources is the biggest way. And whichever way we can work with our area or regional partners and local partners to make sure that that coordinated effort is done. That's the key. And if a major issue outbreak happened in Nacogdoches, heaven forbid, we would be reaching out to those key groups to make sure that the message, the right message, is getting conveyed.
And kind of a follow-up to that question, at what point would you folks and the county officials consider limiting business to slow or stop the spread of COVID-19?
Well, it's all spelled out in the governor's executive order, GA number 32. It's very prescriptive, and really what it comes right down to is if we get to a point that we've exceeded our hospital capacity by the certain threshold that's spelled out in the governor's orders, then we have to then initiate those restrictions. And while there may be some flexibility in some of that, I know that Judge Sal is very committed to making sure our community is kept safe, and so is Mayor Brophy and all of our elected officials, along with our public safety officials, to make sure that we're working collectively to stop the spread. Got to continue working with the area hospitals, SFA, with the school district, and I mean, we're not immune to this. So if it got to the point that we had to, we would, issue letters, go door to door, work with the area business to make sure that they are adhering to the CDC guidelines. And again, a lot of this is voluntary, and so while we're trying to be very cognizant of just of people's rights and their freedoms, I mean, it's really becomes everyone's responsibility to do the right thing. And so if people just don't know, we want to make sure that people are made aware of what are the appropriate guidelines to keep people safe, wearing the masks, social distancing, avoiding large crowds. If things continue to worsen or did get worse, we would more than likely restrict any major public gatherings, any special events that may be scheduled. Those would not happen, and that would just be a ways to minimize the spread until things improve. So we have a number of different tools in which we can use. A lot of it's through marketing and communicating to our community, and we just got to be vigilant about it and consistent about it.
Mario, this question comes to us by one of our media partners, Donna McCollum with KTRE, and she asks, local health care providers are working on COVID-19 vaccine preps. Will you encourage individuals beginning with frontline workers and emergency responders to take the vaccine when it becomes available?
I will rely on our fire chief to work directly with the medical director that our fire department is under. I will rely on their expertise to make that recommendation. If it's safe, then absolutely we need to be able to get our staff, those frontline folks, vaccinated. But I'll need to rely on them to make sure it's safe, just like we would with a flu vaccine or some of the other required vaccinations that are being recommended through our medical community. Rely on those experts.
And just as a follow-up to that, are plans in place for the distribution of a vaccine when and if it becomes available on the local or state or county level?
Well, I know that that's being discussed. I have not had a recent meeting with Chief Kiplinger to find out the details of that, but I know there's discussions in the public safety world, along with through the hospitals to make sure that that's happening. So at this point, while I don't have the details, certainly can get that information and pass that on to you, Wayne, so that you can get that off to the folks that are on this call or membership.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much, Mario. Any questions of the city manager? Well, if not, Mario, I want to take this time to thank you for your contribution to this call here today. Certainly, several important points were made and will be helpful as we move forward in trying to deal with this pandemic. I know that a lot of the stakeholders on this call are like me. We're trying to budget for the 2021 year, and it's tough to budget when you don't know if you're going to have a project or not. And I know the difficult position you and the county officials are in trying to guide us through these very challenging times. But we really appreciate the time you took to be with us here today, and look forward to your future participation, hopefully as a contributor as we go forward. So thank you very much. And
appreciate it, Wayne. Thank you all.
Hopefully you can stay with us on the call. Go ahead, Mario.
No, I just want to say thank you all, and thank you, Wayne, for the opportunity, and appreciate everyone being on the call and questions provided earlier. It's we're here to serve. Your community is here to serve you and serve folks, whether you're a business owner or a resident or whatever the case may be. We're here to serve you, and we just want to make sure we do it safely and do it well. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mario. Appreciate that. We'll begin with our first of our weekly reports. I'm pleased to introduce the President and CEO of the Nacogdoches Economic Development Corporation. Would you say hello to Larissa Philpott? Good morning, Larissa.
Good morning, Wayne. Thank you. I wanted to talk a little bit today about unemployment. You may have seen on headlines that the state and local unemployment has increased. We have about 700 fewer employed people for the month of September as we did in the month of August. We've got about 312 more unemployed people, which means about 400 people dropped out of the workforce or moved away. So with that said, just a little bit of explanation. Our county unemployment percentage is 7.4. That's still lower than the rest of the state, so we're happy about that. We're still trending at an okay point. 1 month maybe is just an anomaly, hopefully. We have not received any notices of layoffs from any big employers. One possibility is that the P3 loans did start in May, and they were required to keep their employees for at least 24 weeks. So we're nearing that point where they may be starting to lay off employees. Just know that NEDCO works with the Texas Workforce Commission on job fairs. We're hoping to have those more frequently, as we do have more folks looking for work than we're hoping to have those more frequently than we have in the past. So just know that we're taking a look at it. Know that, at this time last year, I know the big topic was folks weren't having enough applicants for their jobs. So no, if you have a job opening, you're going to have some really qualified applicants there. And please utilize the Texas Workforce Commission as well as SFA's Jobs for Jacks, their handshake website, to employ SFA students to hopefully keep them here in town. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. If anybody wants to chat with me on the side there, I'll try to answer any other questions too. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you, Larissa. Any questions of Larissa? Thank you, Larissa. I appreciate that. Representing the Office of the Governor, would you please welcome his Representative Betty Rousseau, the regional representative. Good morning, Betty.
Good morning, everyone. Excuse me. I hope you're doing well. Just a couple things today. Some kudos. Texas was ranked best state for business for 8th consecutive time. A new survey of U.S. corporate executives ranked Texas the #1 state for business for the 8th consecutive time since 1996. This survey was released at the International Economic Development Council, or IEDC, annual conference. This survey is done every 3 years. That's why it's 8th consecutive since 1996. But thought that was some good news, and I have to give a shout out to Larissa. We wouldn't receive these rankings if it weren't for our local economic development folks. Larissa does an excellent job. You're very lucky to have her, so thank you, Larissa, for being there in Nacogdoches and doing such a great job. And the Governor's Small Business Webinar Series, there's another one coming up on October 28th from 1 to 2. This one is Business Strategies for an Evolving Future, optimizing online marketing and selling. The details aren't out yet, but if you're interested, you can let me know and I can send you information for the details when they arise. And that's it from me. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Betty, and thanks to the governor's office for all they're doing. We appreciate that. Representing the hospitality industry, would you welcome our very capable director of the Nacogdoches Convention and Visitors Bureau, Sherry Morgan. Good morning, Sherry.
Good morning. Hope everybody's day has started off well. I received the most recent Smith Travel Research report yesterday, and that is the metric that the report that we use to see what our occupancy was. So for the month of September, our hotel occupancy was down 8%. As a reminder, in August, we were down 6% over where we were last year. But in June and July, we were in the 20s, 20 percentile of being down. So not quite as good as August, but still well, that left us with a year to date being down about 23%, a rolling 12 down 21% over last year, and September brings us to the end of our fiscal year. So it is important to remember that when we are speaking about 20%, 8%, that is not out of 100 for us. That's based on our hotel occupancy from last year, and rarely are we ever at 100% occupancy with no bed space available at our lodging properties. Typically, we're 65, 67% occupancy. So it doesn't sound as bad when you are speaking about percentiles, but when you factor that out into a dollar amount, our revenue is what we have seen from that was cut significantly at over 50%. So continuing on with a start of a new fiscal year, 2021 will be the 25th anniversary of the Convention and Visitors Bureau as we know it now. We're doing love letters to Nacogdoches. Those are due that first week in November. We really need your input and that of your friends, families, and coworkers. So please help us out with that. You can contact Ashley Morgan in our office. We now have Charlie Doches masks available for purchase. They're super cute. Boop. They come in red and black. And then we also have some sponsorships available. We, pending approval by the powers that be, our drive-in movie was such a success week before last that we are looking forward to bringing more of those in one in November and several in December. We are looking for sponsors for each one of those. So that's a great opportunity to align your business with a community event that really is satisfying a need in our community. And then for the first time in a long time, the CVB is now responsible for the Nine Flags Festival around the holiday season. And of course, this year it's not going to look like what it looked like in years past, but we are doing a 9 weeks to Nine Flags, and we are looking for sponsors for Christmas trees. Historically, the CVB does have a tree for every flag that is flown over our fair city, one tree for the 3 rebellions. But we are looking for sponsors. Usually we decorate those. We've decided to open it up since there's not going to be a lot of community opportunities to join together and come together as one to celebrate the holidays. We are looking at anchoring the visitor center, the Charles Bright Visitor Center, as a meeting location to tie us all in, and are opening up sponsorships for individuals, families, or businesses that would like to decorate a tree inside of the visitor center. So that is a project being spearheaded by Joanna Temple. And lastly, I'll close by letting you know that we are starting to see recovery, and as it was forecasted, Nacogdoches is recovering, starting that recovery a little ahead of the curve, and that's great. Mike Bay, our visitor services coordinator told me that this past Saturday, which wasn't a graduation, wasn't a major holiday, but our walk-in traffic here at the Charles Bright Visitor Center was 108, and that is really outstanding. And the people that we're seeing are from California, they're from Massachusetts, they're from all over the place, really searching for something that they are finding in Nacogdoches. So with that, I say thank you for making these people feel welcome and for extending hospitality as only an East Texan can. So keep up the good work. You're doing great. Things have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and we're still in the middle of it, but we're doing great, and soon we'll see the end of it. Have a great day.
Thank you, Sherry. And Ashley Morgan reminds us that a writing prompt is available on the link, and please send your completed letters. I'm assuming it's love letters to Nacogdoches to Ashley at visitnacogdoches.org. It's on the chat section of this platform. So thank you, Ashley, for that. I read the very thoughtful letter that you put together, Sherry. And if any of you haven't seen it, I'd encourage you to go to, I assume it's on Facebook, and read it. It was very well done. Thank you. Representing, they're giving us a state of Texas update. Would you please, I don't believe that Senator Nichols is on this call. Are you, Senator? But I do know that Representative Travis Clardy is on this call. Good morning, Representative Clardy.
Good morning, Wayne, and everybody. Great to be back on the program. And I've really enjoyed the session so far. And I gotta say, Sherry Morgan, I love her upbeat take on things, and it's kind of comforting to think we're in the middle of this and we'll be emerging soon and out of the COVID crisis. To that end, I guess the big news from the state is you may have heard, but there's an election going on. We started early voting last week, and it's a record-setting turnout so far from last Tuesday through the end of Saturday, and including mail-in ballots received across the state of Texas. We've already had 4 million Texans vote in this election. There are 17 million registered voters, and I think expectations are that we will see at least 11 million and maybe push up on 12 million people engaged in the election process and go have their voices heard at the polls. And Nacogdoches is certainly no exception to that. I've talked to Todd Stallings, who I do want to give a big shout out to. Todd does a fantastic job as our elections administrator for the county of Nacogdoches. It is going off without a single hitch. And if you haven't voted early, please go do so. The location for that Nacogdoches is at the courthouse annex, the elections office, and you can be completely comfortable and safe. All the appropriate precautions have been taken. They have a great set of poll workers, election judges, sanitizers available, keeping distance. The room is very spacious. I have not heard a single complaint from anybody. So have no concerns or fears about being able to go and exercise your constitutional right to vote in Nacogdoches. If you prefer, we'll have elections. Early voting will continue through this week at the annex through Saturday, and then next week, election day is Tuesday, November 3rd. If you're not voting for me, the election day is the following week. But if you're voting for me, you need to get there by November the 3rd, and that'll be a 7 to 7, 7 in the morning, 7 in the evening, and that'll conclude the election for this year. But again, and on election day, we will be throughout the county, designated precinct locations. So those who want to vote in Garrison or Sereno or Woden or Cushing and those other locations and scattered around the city of Nacogdoches and the county of Nacogdoches, those will be available and open. A lot of people prefer to do that, and that's perfectly all right. And again, but the same care will be given to your safety, and there are people there to assist. Make sure you take your ID with you to be able to register that vote. And then if you've requested a mail-in ballot, get that turned in. You can either drop that off in person as the voter at the elections office, or you can simply put a stamp on it and mail back your ballot. So I'd encourage everybody to do that. It's really a tremendous thing we do in this country to have this sort of transition of power and this exercise of the people to be heard and to speak out. And I think this cycle certainly be no different. We're all waiting with bated breath exactly how things will turn out. But it's I think this election is going to be another one for the record books, just like the rest of 2020 has been. So with that, other news from Austin, we are coming up on the session. Will be January 12th is the opening day. We will be there in person, but we still don't really have the rules of the road as to how that will be conducted. Wayne, I know we've talked already, and as soon as I get any additional information on how we are going to host events such as SFA Nacogdoches Days, I will certainly keep you all informed. I'm really hopeful we'll be able to do that. That's such a wonderful day that I really enjoy as much as any day during any session, is to see our friends show up and have our great event there that the chamber hosts. So I'm hoping we can pull that off again this year. So cross your fingers, but I'll let you know more details there. But otherwise, I think things are good. Jerry Jones, my district director, is on the phone. As you know, Jerry does a fantastic job on helping with constituent issues, whether it's been through the Triple B program or filing workers' unemployment claims or whatever. I think we've been able to manage this very, very well, and that's in very large part due to Jerry's good work. And so her offices at the City Hall, our numbers on the website is everywhere. I don't think I will be able to do a Friday afternoon chat. Judy and I will be on the road this weekend. So I think we'll put a pin on that one, but try to do it next weekend, kind of as we go into Election Day. So great to see everybody. I hope that answers questions. But if anybody has anything else, you can send me a call, or you can ask it right now if you want to. But thanks again, Wayne. Great to be on the program.
Thank you, Representative Clardy. Any questions for the representative? Well, thank you very much, Representative Clardy. We really appreciate your participation on this call today. Representing the social services folks.
Well, very good. Well, I'm going to go see. Hey, by the way, I'll see. Thank you,
Travis, I'm afraid you broke up there. I'm not sure we caught that last message.
Yeah, thank you, Wayne. Hey, Wayne, I was going to say I'm going to jump off the call, Wayne. I've got to head to our neighbors in Henderson in Rusk County, the Ray Perryman, the head coach. I'll be back down to. Thank you, Wayne.
Well, thank you, Travis. I appreciate that. Moving right along, representing social services, Gary Lee Ashcraft, the president of Nacogdoches area. Good morning, Gary Lee.
Hi there, everybody. Can you hear me? I hope somebody give me a thumbs up. There you go. I see Sherry going thumbs up. That'll be good. Speaking of Sherry, kudos to Sherry and her team. They have been working on our videos. They've got our sign down and it's coming back up prettier than ever. We're going to have a big ceremony about the campaign. The cool thing about it is that people really care in our community, and we're actually have a $300,000 campaign. If we cruise past 200,000, I'm excited. But I think we're almost halfway through the 300,000. The last calculations I did, which are sometimes a little iffy, Caroline Garner put the real numbers to it, but it looks pretty good. People are giving in this community when it's important. And this money that's pledged by employees who work in the workplace starts to be enacted in January. And trust me, the agencies are creative, out of the box, and doing everything they can to serve those who need us most. And so they're doing that this year, but next year they're going to need the money even more. And so if you haven't donated or you're thinking about it, please do. Please donate to the United Way. If you don't know how to do that, I'll tell you how to write out a check or give us money or however to do it. Just give me a call. You can do that. Won't talk about Minnie Pearl. That would be the car, not Minnie Pearl. She's at the hospital right now. She's fine. She's taking care of patients at the hospital, Memorial Hospital. She'll probably have a drink at Chilnack pretty soon, and she's moving all over the community. She's a beautiful Rex Perry Hyundai Accent that I've driven and been pulled over several times, but it's been a warning ticket. It's a very fast little car. I like that car. You can get in it normally. I used to have to get in them butt first, but you can get in normally, so it's good. better days ahead. That's our campaign theme, thanks to Sherry, and there are better days ahead. So that's my speech for today. I'll tell you that we're extending the date of the campaign and the giveaway car. It's a COVID kind of thing. We've kind of got moving slow. So somewhere in we're going to decide today, somewhere in the second week of December, we will give that car away at Rex Ferry Autoplex. They're already excited about having a little party out there with people there. It won't be a Zoom. I'm so excited. We'll social distance you some way or another. I don't know how, but we'll figure it out. I will tell you about the parade. I was listening to Mario and Sherry and all the folks about events. I can tell you that the parade isn't going to happen like the parade has for years and years and years. And I'm the bad guy for that. I just saw COVID hanging everywhere. All the people deep in the streets and all that, not going to happen. We're coming up with some very creative ways to have a parade. I have been told I can't talk about it, but in the next days, we will bust out with the information and let you know if we're going to have the parade in a very different form, but it'll be a lot of fun and very safe to do. We've talked to some of the folks that are very involved in building floats and things like that, and they seem to be on board. So I'll let you know this week, the media folks, Donna and others that might be on the line, we will tell you, and y'all quit calling me. I'm almost there. So I've got more comments from somebody that's smiling right now. She would be my wife going, what's going to do about the parade? Well, we're trying. So we're going to figure that out, and it will be fun, and we will celebrate the lovely Christmas holidays. So with that, I will tell you one more thing that I'm excited about. We've hired or employed or whatever a very sharp SFASU student intern. She's an adult, mature, and she has put the final touches along with Dr. Imogen Theolifant, who runs the graduate school for the School of Social Work, a volunteer certification program. And this is a real program. It's extensive. It's for volunteers in all of our area, including Shelby County and San Augustine and Nacogdoches. We'll launch that program in November, I believe I've been told. You will go through a pretty rigorous progress. There's a background check involved, which I couldn't pass, so I won't be in the program. But I can tell you it's really going to be neat, and we will have volunteer opportunities, volunteers that actually know how to volunteer. There's something to do in doing that. So with that, Wayne Mitchell, I will get off this call and shut up, and thank you all for supporting the United Way. Live United. Talk to you later.
Thank you very much, Gary Lee. We appreciate that and all your folks are doing in this very important period. Nancy Wyndham, are you on with us this morning from the President and CEO of the Texas Forest Country Partnership? Apparently Nancy couldn't join us this morning, but I do see we have Dr. Amy Mahaffey from the city of Nacogdoches for an update. Good morning, Amy.
Good morning. I think Mario covered it beautifully. I just want to remind everyone that we want to continue to be a resource to our community in terms of reliable information. So we do send out daily updates based on the state numbers, and are happy to add anybody on this call to our email distribution list or answer any questions you may have. We will continue each Tuesday to send out our weekly trend line updates, which are of 7, 14, and 21 day moving average look at our curve here locally. And we are also continuing to encourage people to participate in very low risk activities, contactless activities with people from their own homes during the upcoming Halloween holiday. So with that, I'm good to go, Wayne.
Great, Amy. And Amy, they should contact you if they want to be added to that list.
Absolutely. You can put your email address in the chat and I'll add you before we get off the call, and you'll start getting those each day.
Great. We'll leave that chat column up here for a little while after we conclude the call. But I also see we're privileged to have Les Linebarger, the Communications Director for the NISD, this morning on the call. Les, what's going on?
Good morning, Wayne. I'm going to post a couple of links in the chat feature while I also attempt to talk, and that's always a dangerous combination when I do that sort of thing. So bear with me just one second. We will hold our first home football game this week. NHS is hosting White House at 7:30 p.m. Friday at Dragon Stadium. Capacity of the stadium is capped at 50%. Tickets are available online only. And one of the links that I just put into the chat feature is the link to purchase tickets. I also put a second link in there that goes to a story that's been posted on our website that kind of outlines some of the expectations for fans attending the game. The band and drill team will perform on Friday night, so this is a big thing for our students. It's the District 9 5A opener for the Dragons. And just a reminder to our fans who will be at the game Friday, this will look different. Masks will be required to get into the stadium. You know, when you're seated in a socially distanced way with your family unit, there will be some grace involved on whether or not the masks are removed. But when moving around the stadium, visiting the concession stand, getting to your seats, we ask that all of our fans please wear a mask. And, you know, we're really looking forward to this as a district. We know our students are very excited to get a chance to perform on the football field, our marching band, our drill team. So we're hoping that we can pull all of this off without any problems, while also remembering that we want to do this safely. So once again, there's a link in the chat feature to purchase tickets, and those tickets will be sold only online. There will be no tickets available at the gate on Friday night. And then there's also a link there in the chat feature to get to the story on our website that outlines the expectations we have for all of our fans. Wayne, thanks for having me on. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Les. And Les, do I assume that there's going to be a capacity limit in terms of number of tickets you can sell?
Yes, I'm sorry. Our capacity is limited at 50% of what we can put into the stadium in the seating, and that is a UIL rule right now.
So if you're planning on going, you probably should reserve your tickets as soon as possible.
Yeah, and the story on our website kind of lays out the timing for when tickets go on sale for particular fan groups or for parents, for that sort of thing.
Great, thank you very much. Well, are there any further updates from anybody on the call? If not, I will let you know that I believe that Donna McCullen indicated to us that there are polling places too at Sacred Heart, and SFA has a polling place as well available to you. And please take a look at the chat column before you conclude. Do want to let you know that the Chamber's annual meeting, where we'll recognize our award winners and recap the Chamber year, will be sometime in January. I've got the date down, but we may have a conflict. I'm going to have to visit with my executive committee about that. But we'll have information available very, very soon on that as well. Do want to take a moment and thank City Manager Canizares for joining us this morning and being a part of our program today with that very valuable information. I want to thank all our presenters and all of the folks that took time to join us here today. We really appreciate it and hope you folks have a very safe and prosperous week. Thank you very much.